Hi folks, welcome back to the Horde. It's about 4:30, June 30th, Sunday, 76 degrees. We just had some thunderstorms pull through, so it cooled off a little bit. As you can hear hopping and popping in the background here, I swapped the engines on this thing. Took this guy out and put this guy in. Well, you can hear, start it right up. And there you go. And now it's shut down. Anyway, what I did is I swapped engines, and I'm thinking the one that was on there, the DT Melissa bike, I'm thinking the engine that was on there, its issue was it was popping a little bit out the intake valve. I discovered that, God, a lot of years ago, when I had a little Honda 50 that had a problem. Somebody put it together and didn't time it up properly, and what happened was the intake valve got hit. Well, back then I didn't have very much money, so I did everything I could to try to straighten the valve out and put it all back together again. But obviously, the dimension, from a dimensionally speaking point of view, to seal a valve, you're talking thousandths of an inch. And back then we're talking like I had a vise and a hammer and a piece of pipe to straighten the valve out. So obviously I never did get that valve to seal properly. And that bike, I remember my younger brother towing me all over the place with a tractor. I was sitting on that thing and we were dragging it uphill, downhill, pushing it, doing everything we could trying to get that thing started, and we just didn't have any luck. So and the way I was able to tell it was popping out the carburetor is I was turning it over electrically with that yellow drill over there. We're talking this engine. When I would give it just a little bit of gas, you can see some mist coming out of the carburetor, little vapor popping out the carburetor. So with that, my thoughts are, once again, it's probably got an intake valve issue. If you deal in loser engines as I do, it's kind of like dealing in used cars. It's very, very hard to find a perfect used car, right? Normally, when somebody's getting rid of a car, especially if it's a 1984 in the case of this bike, and the engine I put on there is even older, if somebody's getting rid of it, chances are there's something wrong with it. Obviously, the guy who sold me this bike couldn't get it running, so that's how I ended up with the whole bike, and I paid accordingly for it. This engine was part of this deal here. If you recall, this deal here came with this bike and two 185-200 engines. One was seized, and I'm not quite sure what I did with that. It's floating around here somewhere. And the other one, the other engine is this one. And the problem with this guy, every engine has a problem, right? The problem with this one is it's got the stud broke out of the head, and they put, I think, automotive studs in it, which are too big, and I tried threading a bolt into it, and it grabs way, way, way at the bottom. So I'm not thinking it's any good. I'm not thinking it's something I want to pursue with this head. I don't think I'm ever going to get it to seal. I did want to get this engine running, because now that it's running, I can start making some decisions and figuring out what's going on with this bike. And I think what's going on with this bike is that engine was not very good. Once again, I got to do a head job on it. It's a shame when you work on a bike for a little while. You kind of get used to it, kind of become somewhat like I'd rather not trash this bike type of deal. You know, you kind of want to see it succeed. You want to see it run. You want to see it work. When I took the exhaust off, it came off completely. No broken bolts. The exhaust is in nice shape. The bolts came right out of the head. Even the end where the gasket, you know, that round gasket slides in, that came off. Really no issues. Very happy about that. So I managed to score a complete exhaust system, complete OEM exhaust system in good shape. I got the rear end bolts loose. I'm able to adjust the rear end, which is good. The front, though the boots are a little ripped up on the front end, the shock boots. The front end's still tight. I got it so all three tires are holding air, which is always nice. The front fender's in good shape, and it looks like if I throw a set of front shoes in this thing, the cable's good, and it'll actually have a set of front brakes. So this thing has all kinds of wondrous abilities. Though I think I am going to keep to the notion that it's going to be for testing engines. So this one is obviously a runner, though I'm probably going to put the chain on. I did shift it through the gears. It shifts through all the gears. The shift area there is not where the shifter goes on. It's not stripped. So I'm probably I am going to probably finish putting this together and take it out for a ride just to kind of see what else is going on with it. I'm probably going to permanently mount that black gas tank to it because I don't think I have a good gas tank for this thing, a separate good gas tank. Gas tanks for 185 200S's, I guess, depending on where you find them, the plastic guys, I think they're a little under 200, between 150 and 200, if I recall, on eBay. So if you have a bike you want to put together and make it look nice, you know, and you don't want to have to completely dick with the carburetor because it's filling with rust and so forth, that's not a bad thing. The one thing about plastic gas tanks, you don't want to leave gas in them forever either, because then you find your carburetor, instead of being full of white powder like that one is, and the fact that you might be able to do something with that white powder, what you'll find instead is that black or brown, black, dark brown material. It's kind of like Permatex. It almost smells like Permatex, form a gasket that glues your float to the bottom of the carburetor, and there you're screwed. One other quick note, while I was at the flea market, I don't know if you guys recall, there was an outboard motor sitting out here on the 2-cycle golf cart. It was like right around here somewhere. That outboard motor sold last week for $75. So I scored $75 on that. The deal was I split it with the guy who sold it for me. You know, I said, yo, you keep 40, I'll take 35, because it was just going to get scrapped. But he insisted, and if he wants to insist, he took 35 and I got 40. So $40 for a scrap motor, a motor that I wasn't going to keep, and a motor that wasn't getting any better sitting out here. So $40 worth of income this week. We'll add that to the scrap hoard. There we are. All right. Probably what you'll see as a little bit of time passes, I'm going to, poke various motors onto this thing and see how well they work out. Probably I'll finish putting it together and take it for a ride just for the sake of it. We've got, I do, part of making sure a motor's good is that it actually starts up and runs up through the gears. Shame about this motor is I am going to end up having to pull the head off of it to change it, because it's stripped, right? I can't put an exhaust on it. In this area, I could probably ride without an exhaust, though personally I don't like the noise. My neighbors probably wouldn't call the cops on me, but if they do, I mean, who needs the trouble? So I am going to do the exhaust properly. I don't know if you guys recall, this engine came off the bike that was underneath the deck, the 185 that was under the deck. the one where the gas tank was rotted out and it was in real bad shape. The one that I've already parted and deposited behind one of the sheds as a dead unit because I probably should have never bought it in the first place. Anyway, this engine is from there, and what I've done is I put my mixture of transmission fluid and diesel into it. It's been sitting in there for a couple of weeks now. I'm going to give it one last try to turn it over. If it won't turn over, that's another engine that has to be taken apart and that cylinder bang down. Hopefully the cylinder will bang down. If it doesn't, hopefully the head's good and I can take that head and put it on this bike and all will be good. Yeah, I want to start getting complete engines, getting them on the shelf, getting them ready to go, and making use of them. I'm still debating what to do with that workhorse golf cart. It's got a Robin in it, a 2-cylinder Robin that's only 9 horsepower. These guys are supposedly 13. The 2-cylinder Robin, the advantage of the engine is it's what should be in the golf cart, and if I get it running, it gives me the maximum value for the golf cart should I ever decide to sell it, which won't happen. I mean, that golf cart with a good running engine on it is probably worth close. I've seen them as high as $2,500 to $3,500 on eBay. Given that it's not a beautiful cart, and it appears to have a lot of miles on it, let's ratchet that down to $1,500. So, that's on the positive side of getting the Robin running. On the negative side, it needs a like $150, $175, $200 starter. The carburetor's jacked, so it might need one of those. Maybe I can bring it back to life. Maybe I can't. I'm not sure. And it has an ignition problem, and that's a complete wild. That's a complete wild card. The ignition for that thing does use 12 volts, so I can't hack one of those CDIs into it. And I think it also has an advance, a 2-cylinder type advance. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to fake it. And once again, if I'm trying to sell it as a good golf cart, a good solid golf cart, or I want the thing reliable, on and on and on, I probably should fix it correctly and not hack it, which means, just the numbers I've thrown around, right? $300, $400, $500. That seems to be a lot of money. What I'm thinking about doing instead is I have a 200E engine that was on a 200X. There's enough videos about that bike, and that one still isn't running. But if I get that engine fired up and put that engine on it, it gives me an electric start with a pull start backup, 2 big pluses. It gives me a 5-speed plus forward and reverse with the rear end, which makes it interesting. I have a 12-volt system, so even though the air-cooled engine, though the Robin is air-cooled also, but even though the air-cooled engine is kind of underneath it there, between putting a scoop on it and putting a fan on it, I can probably keep it more than cool enough. Once again, I have the 12-volt system, so I can run a fan. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking of for that unit. Anyway, I'm sitting here babbling, but I did make progress. I got this bike running, and I did a brake job, and I've been to the flea market. And considering I've only been out of work, I don't know, about 30 hours, right? I came home about 30 hours ago. That's not too bad. 30, 35 hours ago. That's not too bad. Got quite a bit done already. All right, folks, tires down, handlebars up. We'll catch you on the next episode of The Horde, and God knows when the heck that'll be. Maybe I should throw the chain on this thing and the gas tank and take it for a spin, but I really can't show you guys that because it's going to be a mess, and I'm going to need both hands to hang on. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm up to. Whatever it is, if it's interesting, I'll video it. Hey, till then, take care.